You have first dibs.
I was just gonna table it, let him do it next time.
Getting back to this issue.
Yep.
It talks about long.
Okay. The hour being 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting of the Laconia City Council to order. It is March 10th, 2025. The Armand Baltic City Council Chambers. Before we get started, Glenn Smith, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Thank you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'm Mark Haynes, I'm Counselor, Ward 4. I am the Mayor Pro Tem. The Mayor will not be joining us tonight. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Cheney,
Here?
Counselor Susie,
Here.
Counselor Hoffman,
Present?
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Bogart,
Here.
Counselor Felch.
Here.
Thank you. We are joined by the City Manager, Kurt Beatty, and our Finance Director, Glenn Smith. There are no council proclamations. Item 7A is the City Council regular meeting minutes of February 24th. The minutes of the Laconia City Council meeting on February 24th, 2025 were distributed to the members of the City Council on March 4th, 2025. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Consent item action. 8A is request from the Rears Action Committee to hold summer jazz concerts on the boardwalk. The Weirs Action Committee has requested permission to use the boardwalk to provide free jazz band concerts. If approved, the concerts will take place on Sunday night in late June, July, and August, from June 29th through August 31st, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. The band will play under a 10 by 20 pop-up tent, which will be placed no earlier than 2 hours prior to the performance and removed no later than 1 hour after each performance. The band will play at the center of the wide section of the boardwalk facing the street and will use the same electrical receptacles that were used by the vendors of Motorcycle Week. Special Events Review Commission has approved their request at that February 5th, 2025 meeting. The motion is I move to approve the request for the Weirs Action Committee to hold summer concerts on the boardwalk on Sunday nights in June, July, and August from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Do I have a motion? Counselor Phelps. Second, Counselor Susie. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. Item number 9 is citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. This is the time set aside by the council for anyone to address the council for matters not on the agenda. All right. Seeing none? There are no interviews. There are no nominations. We are down to 13 public hearings. Item 13A is Public Hearing Resolution 2025-6, resolution relative to authorizing the purchase and replacement of electronic counting devices. The notice of the public hearing was made available on February 27th, 2025 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Public Library, and the offices of SAU. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:05. If anyone would like to address this matter, now is the time. Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:06. 13B. Public hearing, Resolution 2025-007. Request to approve using downtown TIF funds for projects proposed by the Downtown TIF District Advisory Board. The notice of this public hearing was made available in the February 27th, 2025 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, the Public Library, and the SAU. This action may be taken up under unfinished business. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:06. If there's anyone that would like to speak to that, now is the time. Welcome, Warren.
Warren Clement, Old North Main Street. Been involved with downtown for 50 years, happy to say. Speak highly in favor of the proposal for the TIF district to provide $81,000 to do landscaping downtown. We've picked several areas. Planning board is aware of it. Amy at Parks and Recreation is aware of it, and all agree. And basically, we would take Stewart Park, Rotary Park, some other ones, and fix them up, make them look better, but the main thing is we'll maintain them. we've done parks before, and we never seem to get around to, and I say we, to taking care of them. This is gonna hopefully solve that problem. Part of that, too, is providing window boxes downtown. We've had whiskey barrels, and they've worked well, but now we're gonna try to put some window boxes up against the buildings. And the good news is the students at Hewitt Center are gonna build them. So this is the beginning of the money from the TIF district, and there's over $700,000 in that account now. And it's, what's happened before is there was $400,000 in the plow trail that was done. There was $95,000 in Stewart Park. There's walking trails. The theater gets a couple $100,000 a year plus $100,000 for the bridge. So glad to answer any questions from you or from the general public.
Does council, any questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Good,
Thank you, Mark.
thanks.
I would like to mention to the council that the council is aware that the council received an anonymous letter in reference to this proposal. We usually, when I say we, me, do not read into public record anything, any correspondence that's anonymous. So I think the council's aware and did see that, and I wanted to bring that up. Patrick?
Yes, Patrick Wood, Shore Drive, Ward 1. I'm in favor of this as well. I think, as we all know, our home represents and shows people how we care about ourselves by making our downtown more beautiful, by adding this these plantings. It helps everyone know that we care about our community. So I'm very much in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone else? Okay, then I will close the public hearing at 7:09. We have no presentations. The mayor's report. I'm not the mayor, but there's a couple of things that I would like to mention. Former Captain Bill Clary of the LPD was named Technical Center Teacher of the Year, which congratulations to him, well deserved. The Historical Society is having a brew tasting session Saturday at Defiant Records. I believe it's right around noon time, but anyone can find out the times by looking in Laconia links. And all those people that decided to jump into Lake Winnipesaukee for the Special Olympics. With the winter we had, I can't imagine that the water was very warm, but thank those dear souls for doing that for Special Olympics. Council comments. Council Hoffman.
I have something. Given the concern over the cost and availability of eggs, I think it's time for the council to consider revisiting our ordinances when it comes to backyard chickens. Right now, we don't allow it, but I'll point out that Manchester, Nashua, Derry, Dover, Rochester, Merrimack, Concord, Londonderry, Hudson, Keene, Hampton, Wyndham, Lebanon, Hooksett, Somersworth, and Berlin all allow backyard chickens, typically up to 6 hens, no roosters, as long as they're enclosed. I think we should consider increasing the supply of locally produced eggs.
I think we should send that to committee.
I think so.
To which
Do I
committee?
have to make a motion?
Operations? I didn't want to say which committee.
Okay.
That's squarely,
Okay.
you know what one that is.
I certainly know what that committee is.
It's ours.
That's squarely.
Anyone else? Counselor Cheney, did you have something, Steve?
I have a few things, sir. One, I addressed the manager, but I wanted to mention publicly. I read recently that the funding for the culvert on Hilliard Road would be in front of the GMC a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I had not heard what happened. I mean, I think it was a bigger grant, but that culvert was included in the grant. So I was gonna ask if we would ask the city manager to look into that and see if he can get us a report on whether that passed, and if so, if there's a time frame when we might see it before it floods out again in the spring.
Okay,
Okay,
is there anything else?
a few. I've looked at Rule 7 of our rules, procedural rules, which talks about, see if I can find it here. I've got it, so, here we go. Rule 7 deals with a quorum. And it is, it is in conflict, I think, with Rule 15B. Then I find that Rule 25 conflicts with Rule 24J. The purpose of my bringing those up, those relate to ad hoc committees and council committees and whatever, and how they're appointed and da-da-da-da-da. We have conflicting procedures, and before we go forward with the mayor's ad hoc committee, I'd like us to review these and get them straightened out so they can't be argued at some later date that we, didn't follow this procedure as opposed to that procedure. So I would ask for some time for us to have the manager, look at the procedures. There's titles in there in other places, not in those two, but in other places that don't appear anywhere else in the rules. There are descriptions of how many people should be on a committee or whatever, which we don't necessarily follow. And so I was hoping we could postpone any activity until we have a chance to review the rules and determine what we're supposed to be doing in what order. And should we amend these, I frankly think we should send them to a committee to be reviewed and rewritten, because there are enough problem areas in my mind in there, and I think if you all read them through, you'll find that there are conflicts and confusing things. So that's my comment for tonight. I hope we can bring it up at a little later in the meeting.
Bruce? Can we have the city manager look at that and then send them to,
Absolutely, I think that's,
yeah, definitely,
I-
send it to committee, which I believe is ours again.
The first meeting is scheduled for tomorrow.
Yes, the first
We already
meeting is
had
tomorrow
one
evening.
tonight, so that's all right.
No, I mean for the ad
No,
hoc committee.
the ad hoc
First
committee.
meeting is scheduled for tomorrow.
Yes, the first meeting of the is tomorrow evening. Correct.
I think
Kinda
it's
short notice.
problematic. Yeah, it is. But I think it's problematic moving forward without knowing. In one place, it says the mayor can put one councilman on a committee.
So
Go
can
ahead.
we have the city manager look at that and see if there is any conflict and let him make that decision whether that meeting should happen tomorrow?
I mean, that's up to you guys. I mean, I'd have to find something that significantly says that it doesn't before I,
Right.
But I think there's
that's-
significant things in there that say,
I think, if
I
I may,
Yes, Steve. Counselor
Thank you.
Borga.
I think if you looked at Section J, Special Ad hoc City Commission, the Special Ad hoc Committee Advisory Committee may create by council for a particular purpose, all committee members shall be done, and the mayor shall appoint. Then it says under number 2, city study committees created according to Section A above all shall sunset, that's fine. And then the last sentence is the most important sentence. It says, "One council member appointed by the mayor may be appointed as a member and a liaison of a city advisory committee." One, and if I'm counting correctly, there's 3 representatives from the city council. 3. And that in itself is in violation of section J, number 2. And
It's
so,
only 2,
if
but-
you need, the mayor is there, so that's 3 members of the council. I do believe the mayor is part of the council.
No, no, yes, maybe.
Well, you see, here we have an issue that we can't even agree upon, so I have to agree with Mr. Cheney.
Yeah, but even
Uh,
so, there's at least 2, so that's
So
still.
at least 2.
Yeah.
So that in itself indicates there's a conflict within the rules, or the interpretation of the rules. And that to me would suggest that the postponement is valid just based on that one section alone, that we have a concern over the makeup of the committee itself, which we don't, when the committee meets, we want to make sure that it's abiding by the rules so that no outside forces can come in and say, you've done something that is not per your own rules. And that basically in itself states we are outside of the privy of the rules.
The other thing that's in here is, it talks about the mayor can appoint citizens. I'm sure that you can make an argument of this, as long as they believe, they belong to the United States, they're citizens. But I think the intent is residents.
Yeah.
And there are several people that were appointed to this ad hoc committee who are not residents of the city of Laconia. I think they can be ex officio members. They certainly can participate and listen, but I don't think they can be members according to our rules.
I'm pretty sure that was adjusted, though. The names.
Was
of
it?
the-
Oh,
Yeah,
I-
the names of the people, there were some people taken off.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Some, all, or some?
No, what I mean is there were some people who were on the committee who lived out of town that are no longer on it. And I think it's all of them that were out of town.
Good.
I can't sit there and name them and say yes or all, but I'm pretty sure everybody that was out of town was.
And all I would point out to you is that's one more of the things. We're pretty sure, but we're not positive.
Might
And
want to be reworded, yep.
I just, I think we leave ourselves open for litigation or something else. Now, we can solve this problem by taking me off the committee and just leaving him on the committee, and then there's only one councilman. Just trying to help you out here.
He says he's got plenty of time now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Counselor Hoffman, did you have something you wanted to add?
To this matter, no.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's it. I would ask the council members to look at their rules, look at Rule 7, look at Rule 15, look at Rule 25 and Rule 24, I'm sorry. As an interesting side note, if you look at, hold on. If you look at Rule 9, Order of Business, council comments are item S, third from the end.
We can look at that. I don't know when this was changed, but it was quite
Exactly.
a long time ago.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is, I think we ought to try and
Counselor,
straighten these.
Counselor Cheney, I believe that was changed under Ed Angler, and the council did vote for that. I may be stand corrected, but I know that came up,
And this should reflect it.
yes.
The rules should reflect it. And I'm fine with that, but
Okay.
the rules, I'd like to see the rules cleaned up, I guess. When I started looking at this for this committee thing, I began to find it's not just the committee that I have concerns about. Some of these other numbers I gave you aren't related to the committee, there's other things, like the order of what our business is supposed to be. If it's supposed to be different, I don't think it's a major malfunction, but it's an indication we have things in here that we don't follow anymore. So, that's my point. And I guess that does it for now. I have a comment later on about Hilliard Road, but I'll wait till that comes
Okay.
up at that time.
Council Phelps?
Yes, I'd like to say we had our Robbie Mills Memorial Pool Tournament Saturday. We had a great turnout. We had 62 players and a lot of visitors. I want to say thank you to Winnie Bar and Billiards for hosting it, all of our sponsors, and definitely all the people that attended and the volunteers that helped out with it. I haven't got final figures on how much we raised, but I'm sure we did pretty good.
Thank you. Counselor Susie, did you have anything?
I have one more thing. So the city of Lebanon passed a resolution objecting to the freezing of federal grant programs to states and municipalities. They encouraged other towns and cities to follow suit and send that resolution to Governor Ayotte and our federal delegation. So I'd like to suggest that maybe the council considers passing a similar resolution.
Are these specific?
Yeah, I'd like to see the resolution.
I think I can send around what they passed, and we can,
That would
Take
be
a look at
appropriate.
it.
That would be
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's more-
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Council Bogart, did you have something? No?
I
Okay.
think I'm all good, thank you.
okay?
Committee reports. Is there any committee reports? I'd just like to report that Government Operations and Ordinance met tonight in reference to snow removal. We did have a lengthy discussion with Wes. He took our feedback and is going to take that feedback to the attorneys, and will come back to us on that. Liaison committees? No? Okay. All right, we're at item 19, which is citizens' request. 2, comment on current agenda items. This is the time to comment on anything that's on our agenda this evening. Okay. Okay. You're more than welcome. We don't bite. City managers report, correct?
Thank you. So, included in your packet tonight is the financial and operational trends. You'll see we have one more month left of the building construction. That number for current year is probably gonna be a little bit high. We do have some adjustments that we have to make with that. But we had a decent year. Obviously, it slowed down compared to the last couple of years, but we'll see an uptick next year, I think. General assistance data, you'll note that there was, vouchers continue to go up. A lot of that is, in housing of people in need. So we met the other day, we had a good meeting with some of our other communities that are around us that use some of the same facilities that we do. Trying to get us all talking on the same page, and we're also going to start meeting. We're going to take that same group and meet with some of our nonprofits that we work with, essentially trying to be a little bit more proactive in what we're doing, both financially and operationally with welfare. And speaking about that at the end of my presentation tonight, under manager's report, Finance Director Glenn Smith is going to do a little discussion on the work fair that he's been asked about the last couple of weeks.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
When you guys meet with the surrounding towns to discuss this issue, do y'all have any ability to see if any of these people are switching towns when they run their course in one town and then go to another town and then to another town? Is that tracked in any way, shape, or form?
I think we could. When I say we met, that was our first meeting. The other day was just having a conversation. It's certainly something though that we can talk about.
I can add something to that, and that is, that pretty much happens on a daily and a weekly basis, because frankly, all the welfare technicians throughout the region, we all talk to each other. And it's actually pretty common for a person in one town to show up in the next town and just try to do what they can. But in the vetting system, those people are caught, or as the various technicians throughout the region kind of sit down and talk to each other in the course of doing business, they'll compare notes and see who might be trying to do that.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
Police department report, nothing really major changes there. Property tax collection is on par with where we should be at this point. We did note a drop in the overtime on the next page, these last month in both police and fire, which, again, I always talk about, staffing is a big part of that, so we get to see that these last couple months. Motor vehicle registration is a little ahead of where we would expect to be at this time, which is a good thing. Impact fees. So we had a pretty large deposit in the impact fees from one of the buildings down on Province Street, and there's 2 more buildings to come, so we noticed that. So a couple of things I'll just say on impact fees. One is that we know that that's something that we look for if a department's trying to spend money on a specific item and it fits within what's allowed to be spent in capital for impact fees, we try to go there first. So I think you're gonna see a few things over the next couple months. It's a good place to go early, so we're not trying to find it within the budget. And the other thing is our planning department is still working with the third-party company that's assessing our impact fees. So that should be going at some point in the near future to both planning and to you guys for review to see if where we stand with our impact fees, if we're overcharging, undercharging in the right spot. It's definitely an in-depth review that they're doing. So that'll be coming to you guys soon. No real major changes with the reserve fund balance. The only note I will make on that is the winter maintenance reserve account. I don't think at this point, unless March is terrible, I'm not expecting to have to go get any money out of that or go to the trustees to get money out of that. But we certainly won't be putting any money in, as I'll say on the next page, this year. There's no extra money going into that this year. The other piece on that is there's been questions that has come up on a few occasions about the procedures the trustees in the city have been following. I think the work that we've done with the trustees at not only a couple meetings, but offline, individually, obviously, I think we're pretty much in line with where we need to be. There's still one issue in a school reserve account that was just probably something that we didn't procedurally handle correctly. But the superintendent and myself are meeting with the trustee on the 14th, get that taken care of, what we need to do, and I think that'll wrap up all the concerns that were had in that letter. And moving forward, we won't run into any problems. But so I'm meeting with them again on the 14th. On that same page at the top right is the TIF district balances. As you saw probably in the paper this weekend, there was an article about a potential North End TIF. That is something that we've been working on internally at this point, with planning, finance, myself, assessing. Once we sort of put that together and determine that it's worth exploring, then it would come forward to you guys. Right now, it's exploratory for us. And I just wanted to make a note on it that it's not about the state school itself. It's not a state school property TIF. It'd be about that growth in the North End. And so these are what would come forward to you. Before we would have anything prepared, there'd be a lot of work with whether you send it to a subcommittee or full council. So a lot of work still to be done, but it's under good exploratory right now.
Councilor Vaga.
Thank you. Within these TIFs, does the creation of a TIF district, I know it takes the difference between the property value and then the increased property value.
Yep.
Okay, but when that money is captured, does that reduce the money available to the general fund to pay other bills or other departments?
Not necessarily, Counselor. What it does is, when you approve a budget, of course, a spending plan, that all that information gets forwarded to DRA, and they do the math, they look at the total assessed value of the city, and how much money needs to be raised, they do the math and make a rate. What it does is that it reduces that total assessed value of the city that is available, that value that's available for general use. Because through the TIF district, we've decided to take a certain amount of that total assessed value and say the money raised by this certain amount is put over in this pot here for use by the TIF district. So the same money would be, oh, excuse me, go ahead, sir.
Follow up, please. So, in essence, yes, it reduces even though the big pot picture stays the same or increases, the money available, because we've taken out that increase and put it in a different pot that can't be used to pay for filling potholes and for the whole town, for the whole city. So it takes it out of that and pot of general fund use and puts it into a special district that can only be used for projects within the special district. I've been asked this question, and that's why I'm trying my best to ask it so I can try and explain it to the person who asked me of this question.
It's kind of a chicken and an egg question, because when the tax rate is set in October, they will set a rate that will raise enough money to fund what you approved in June. If that
Right.
makes sense. So that money's gonna be raised. It's just a matter of when they're doing the math and setting the rate, what the total assessed value of the city is, what they apply, that they're gonna use to calculate that rate. If that makes sense.
Yes. One more, please. So, when they do the evaluation, do they take into account TIF districts?
They take into account TIF districts, and then they subtract that out again to get a net valuation less and not the total value of the TIF, but only the increment.
Okay.
So for example, downtown may be worth $100 million. The increment is only, say, $2 million, because the base when they established the TIF was at that 98, and then you add to that.
And may I please? So then the TIF, once it's created, stays in place forever. So all incremental increases go to the TIF? Or is there a cap on the TIF?
There's a percentage that we're allowed to use, and we don't even usually hit that percentage even, so we're usually well under what our total allowable to use is.
If I could just add to that, if I might, sir. And that percentage is the allowable that can be raised within the TIF. Legally, all the TIF can raise is enough to fund the projects that you approve. So if the TIF is capable of raising $500,000, but you've only approved $50,000 worth of projects, then you can only take out $50,000. I mean, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not an automatic deduction. You have to approve the project. And if you don't approve any projects for the TIF, then no money goes into the TIF fund.
So then if I had, may I?
Yes.
Please.
Why?
So all this money that's in the TIF balance is already been used, or is it money available?
This money can be used.
Because your first statement said if
Both.
there's not a project, then the money should be put in the general fund towards the fund balance, or it should have
Yep.
a project attached to it. And if I'm looking at that, it's being indicated that this is money that has not been attached to any project.
Given what I said earlier, I'll put a caveat on that. And I'll say it's kind of, tradition. Well, first of all, what's, the balances that are in there now, won't necessarily be your year-end balances. Because in the TIF district, the way it works is that whatever's in the budget, we will transfer all the money into the TIF in July, right after you approve the budget. Well, the expenses, especially in the weirs, are the bond payments, and so far, only half the bond payments have hit the budget. So there's still expenses coming out of that. And the TIFs also are not bound by the annual appropriation. So for example, in the weirs TIF, I believe there's $100,000 in there for the dock project, which is just now getting started. So that's going to be spent down. So looking at those numbers, philosophically, if it's sometimes considered good form to leave a little bit of money in the TIF in case a project comes up mid-year, so you're not stuck. On the downtown TIF, I believe a lot of that is money that was left over from a major development project that happened, frankly, before my time,
And then I'll stop.
so.
Kurt, could we, Steve, I don't mean to cut you off, Council Borga, but could we have an explanation for that in the next meeting?
Yeah, we can put that together. We can
Is that
break down
okay
a
with
little
you?
pro forma of it and kind of an
A
expectation of it
request.
all. What's that?
And I
Okay,
just had
I'll
a
allow
re-
the request.
The request would be to maybe have a second column to that, showing the money in the TIF account, and then the amount of money that has been,
Budgeted.
Yeah, we have all that in a
Budgeted.
pro forma we can put together for you, yes.
thank you. And thank y'all for my,
Kurt,
allowing
you-
to ask questions.
Kurt, you're all set with that?
Yes,
Okay,
yep,
thank you.
yep, got it.
All right.
We can do that. I think I'm just about done. Revenue and expenditures are good. Fire department, I know we have an update in the next couple meetings on this. The only, and I didn't really review this a lot for tonight, but I will say one thing on this is that the chief and his EMS deputy have done a lot of work on this, worked with the billing company. They've been able to find some more money that was incorrectly billed, so in a positive to us. So they've been working on that. So we're gonna do a full breakdown of this every quarter or so. We end up doing these, so it's usually a good thing to have him come up. So he'll do that for us. Storms, as you see, that February wasn't a great month. A lot of money was spent. We're just overspent in our total winter maintenance account for the year through February. Like I said earlier, we'll see how March goes, and we'll go from there. And that's all I have. Oh, other than, if you have any other questions about this, I can do that. And then Glenn's gonna talk about the, as part of my report, the welfare
Okay,
workforce.
do we have any questions for the city manager on his report? Yes.
It's more of a comment. I wanted to compliment the police department. As I drive around in the evening time around town, I've noticed a more positive approach towards policing as far as people being, don't know of a nice way of saying it, but being pulled over and instructed in the errors of their ways. So I just wanted to compliment the police department on that and that hard work they're doing.
I will pass that along.
Yes, and some of it is on Court Street. I can see it from my desk. Okay, anyone else, anything else?
Yes, Councilor Cheney had asked for an update on the workfare program. I am glad to report that that program is now back in place. We had our first workfare session this past week up at the Winnie Hotel. We've been given a room at that hotel in which to conduct personal budgeting classes, recovery classes, things like that. And folks came together to clean that room up. I'm glad to say that everybody who was told that they needed to show up for this project, did show up and did what they needed to do.
Okay,
Thank you, Glenn.
thank you, Glenn. Any questions for Glenn? Okay, all right. Under new business, I'd like the council's permission to move 22E up. Is there any objections to moving 22E up? Under new business. Okay, 22E is the Taylor Community Pilot Agreement Renewal. The current payment in lieu of taxes, which is considered pilot agreement between the city of Laconia and the Taylor community, is due for renewal. The current agreement was entered on September 18th in 2015 and is set to expire March 30th, 2025. The current agreement calls for the Taylor community to voluntarily provide payments to the city of Laconia as pilot pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 72:23-N. The current formula used to calculate payments is 1/12 of the actual rental payments for units at the Ledges and Woodside, but will not equal less than $150,000. Attached is the proposed renewal agreement, which you've seen. The fiscal impact, over the terms of the current contract, the average payment is to $230,000 per year, and over the last 3 years has averaged $300,000 per year. This is reflected in the city revenues. I'd like to have a motion to take it off the table. So move, Counselor Susie, Counselor Bogart, second. All those in favor? Unanimous, all 6 in favor? Okay. The motion is I move to renew the payment in lieu of taxes agreement between the city of Laconia and the Taylor community as presented, and to authorize the city manager to sign any and all documents related to the matter. Counselor Susie, is that a,
It's a motion, I'm gonna make a request.
okay, but you made a motion. Okay, Counselor Bogart seconded. Go ahead.
I worked with the city manager on this, and maybe I'd like to ask him to present some of the changes that we're
Sure.
making, okay?
Yep, so there's 3 changes, really, in this. On number 5, I'll go backwards. On number 5, it talks about the independent living units. This was one of the concerns that you had. It said Ledges and Woodside at one point, now it says independent living units. Excuse me, so with they buy new units and have those as independent living units, those would be factored into this wherever they purchase. Number 4 is the parcels that they don't use solely for Taylor, and I do have we do have representation from Taylor Home here if they want to talk a little bit more in depth on that one. But that would that would allow those properties to be taxed as normal properties if they're not being used for the independent living. And number 2, again going backwards, the only real difference of this is last time it was a 10-year term. This year it's a 10-year term. And we added in a 1-year extensions, automatic extensions, unless either side doesn't want to continue as is. It'd be 10 years from now, but somebody will be sitting here and looking at this. So that was just a third thing. Other than that, those are the major changes in this. I think it addressed the concerns that you guys had.
Counselor Susie.
Yeah, one of the biggest things was we were looking at places like Walker Street, where there was a number of residences purchased and everything else in there. And those areas that are not being used by Taylor Home, but even though they've been purchased by them, those are gonna go into normal tax rates. That was the significant thing that, working with the city manager on, and from the finance committee, that's what we tackled off, okay? So I think it's a pretty good agreement from everybody, and I know in talking to the Taylor Home, they're also in favor of it.
We're still under discussion. Is there anyone else? Okay. All those in favor? 6 votes in favor. Okay. Thank you very much, Council, for your indulgence with that. 21A. Rears Beach City parking areas and use of the app to pay for parking. Kurt, would you, it's pretty lengthy, can you just give us a overview of that?
Yep, so this we had discussion with at the, at our Government Operations and Ordinances Committee. So essentially what we're looking at is two things here. One is, do we want to be able to use an app to pay with, like a lot of places do with these pay-by-app systems, which our system does allow. The second piece of it is, do we want to allow extensions? So what we've looked at right now is, if you were to approve these, yes, tonight would be yes, let's use the app. That doesn't really change anything for us. The next two would be to send it to a public hearing to say, one, do we want to allow you to go into your app and extend your time by 1 hour? And do we want to increase the fee on that from its normal, depending on where you are, either $2 or $2.50 an hour to $3 an hour, so it's a little bit more expensive if you want to stay later. What we did is we looked at a lot of places, and that's what they do. They allow you to go into your app, increase time. The increased time is usually capped, not everywhere, but generally capped, so you can add 1 hour, 2 hours. They don't want you just sitting there all day pushing the button and adding time. And incrementally, as you add time, it adds money as well. So maybe in this case, it would be $3. If you wanted to add a second hour, it'd be $5. You know, this is what places are doing. So what we recommended is starting kind of simple. Yes, adding the app, adding 1 hour, using that app at a time, or 1 hour, and then adding and increasing the fees to $3. So there's three motions for you. One would be to use the app. That doesn't need anything special other than one vote. The next two, adding time and adding fee, we wanted a public hearing on that. And the reason we wanted a public hearing on that is back, the previous city manager and public works director met with businesses up there. They had some concerns about, they didn't want somebody parking their car and just continuously staying there all day by pushing the button and keep adding time. They felt that turnover was better for them. That was a while ago. Maybe things have changed, and maybe they, maybe there's a different thought on that now. But we thought it would be best to do public hearings to allow them to come in and have a conversation. And if you go with this, even to send it to a public hearing, Public Works Director and I will reach out to them and have a conversation ahead of time as well.
Kurt, I have a quick question before we get into that. Is April 14th, do you believe that that's adequate? Should it be pushed down, pushed later on, as far as May, to give people the time that are going to be up here for the summertime?
I would ask the public, and the reason I ask is if we're going to go with the app system, I think that would take him some time. If changing it takes time, that would be the only reason I would want to ask ahead of time. But I would ask him if that adds time.
Please.
The problem is we gotta program everything at the support level. So just based off of past experience, if I don't get it in sometime in April, I'm not guaranteed to have all the changes into the system in time when it turns off on the Saturday before Memorial Day.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Thank you. Council Bogart, then Councilor Hoffman.
Just a question. These 2 hour periods that are set up on the parking meter, when they go out on the boat, how long is a boat trip? And
3 hours.
3 hours. So someone's gonna be able to have to go from the boat and use the app to add another hour. So we're going,
If they're parked on Lakeside Ave, yes. Like, there are other places that are longer period parkings.
Yeah. The simplest way to explain it, if I may, you
Yes.
got the Mount Washington in front, you're looking at the building where you buy your tickets. Everything to the left is 2 hours, everything to the right is 5 hours. So the Mount has access reasonably close for 5 hour parking.
okay. I didn't
Left
realize.
of it is 2 hour parking.
Thank
I
you,
was
Wes, that's
not
good.
aware of that.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes, that's good to know. Okay, anyone else? Councilor Hoffman, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Before the April 14th meeting, could we know how much revenue that parking generates, or do you know that?
Yeah, we can pull that up.
Okay.
We do that every year, so, yeah, we can easily get that for you.
And then, when that parking first became pay parking, was the intention to raise revenue, or was that just an incentive to create
Turnover.
more parking spaces?
I'm not sure, but I think it was a little bit of both.
I'd say both, probably, but.
Yeah.
But we forgot to put the P meters on the
Green
docks.
factor's good.
I'm not done with that.
I know.
Anyone else? Okay, we have three motions to deal with. The first motion, I move the city council approve the use of pay-by-app system for city meter parking. Counselor Phelps and Counselor Bogart seconds. Is there any discussion? Nope, okay, all those in favor? 6 votes. Second, I move the city council schedule a public hearing for April 14th, 2025, to receive comments on the adjustment of parking time limit, excuse me, restrictions and allow for 1-hour extension periods. Is there a motion? Counselor Felch? Counselor Hoffman? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Thank you, 6 votes in affirmative. Last motion, I move the city council schedule a public hearing for April 14th, 2025, to receive comments on setting a fee for 1-hour extension periods at $3 an hour. Is there, okay, Counselor Felch? Counselor Bogart seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 6 votes in affirmative. All right. 21B, Government Operations and Ordinance Committee meeting on February 21, 25. Committee members reviewed items listed on the councilor's agenda under committee reports for the committee. It was the consensus of the committee at the meeting to modify the list as shown below. The following items should be removed from the list: code enforcement on property maintenance, and the use of public property for profit entities. Please note that the removal of or addition of any items listed under committee reports requires a full vote of the city council. The motion is I move and approve the request to modify items listed under committee reports for Government Operations and Ordinance Committee as presented above. Is there a motion? Councilor Felch. Councilor Hoffman. Seconds. Councilor Felch, seeing you're on the committee, would you just, under discussion, would just like to make a comment on those?
Yeah, we actually looked at everything that was on our list, and these 2 items appeared to be taken care of and not needing to be on the list anymore.
Thank you. I'd also want to make note to the council that we did meet with the planning board and the planning department, I'm sorry, and they still had some feedback on other items that's listed under special ordinance and government reports, so that'll be taken up at another time. Did we vote?
Nope.
Katie, we didn't vote on that? Okay. We have a motion on the table, the table. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. Okay, thank you. 21C, request from the Laconia Police Department to accept and expend a grant from the Office of Highway Safety in the amount of $7,000 to be used for the following project titles: speed enforcement patrols and DUI enforcement. The city's share of the grant is $1,750, which is entirely covered by in-kind services. There are 2 motions. First motion is I move to waive a reading of Resolution 2025-08 in its entirety and read by title only. Do I have a motion? Councilor Felch? Councilor Susie? Seconds it? Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. The second motion is I move to approve Resolution 2025-08 relative to authorizing the city manager to accept and expend the Office of Highway safety grant on behalf of the city in the amount of $7,000 for the Laconia Police Department as presented. Counselor Susie makes the motion. Is there a second? Counselor Cheney? Is there any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. We are on to 21D. Appointment of the city councilor to the zoning board of adjustment. During the recent city council meeting, it was suggested that the city councilor should be appointed to the zoning board, member of the zoning board of adjustment. If appointed, the councilor would be appointed in the same capacity as a non-councilor and fill either a regular or an alternate member role. It would not be a dedicated city councilor's member spot. Kurt, I know you did some work on that.
Yeah.
You just want to,
Yeah, so you guys, the city council appoints the zoning board. They can have, by RSA, 5 members, and our ordinance follows the same, 5 members and up to 5 alternates. They currently have 5 regular members sitting on the board and 1 of their 5 alternate positions. We did check with legal. We can have a counselor sit on both boards if choose to. So I don't have a name for you, so that's up to you guys to decide if you have somebody. And again, this wouldn't be a city councilor liaison type position the same way as Councilor Cheney sits on the planning board. This would be no different than a citizen sitting on, but it would happen to be one of you on that position. So you would be an alternate and can vote. You know, if you were seated as a regular member that night, it just as any citizen would. I figured I looked at it the same way we do staff. You guys appoint anyhow. We don't always send staff through the appointments committee and do all that stuff, and I thought you guys would be fine with not doing that the same way we would for a staff member. But again, if you have a member who wants to do this.
Councilor Susie?
I just want to make a motion.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to make the motion that Councilor Hoffman, as the alternate position on the zoning board with his professionalism, experience, and now additional time to spend, I think he'd make a fantastic member of the board.
All right. Is there a second?
Counselor,
Is there a second? Is that,
Yes, I
you,
do.
are you seconding Councilor Hoffman?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
can I just make a quick comment? 'Cause
Sure.
I kind of push this. My intent is for you to see what's happening there and because from time to time I bring things back from the planning board to here so that we're aware of what's happening, and I'm hoping that our representative to the ZBA can do the same.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Keep hearing about it. Rubber
All right.
stamp, rubber stamp, rubber stamp.
All right. The motion is I approve to appoint Councilor Eric Hoffman to an alternate position of the zoning board adjustment for a 3-year term expiring in the end of August 2028. Is there a motion?
He made it.
Yeah, we already did that.
Okay, and
Yeah,
a second.
and Eric seconded it.
All right.
Uh,
Did you get that, Katie?
I did.
Okay. All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative.
Got away
That's the
with it.
fastest everybody threw their hands up tonight for.
Thank you, Councilor Hoffman.
I can say as liaison for the Motorcycle Week Association, they also made me a board member, so.
I do want to make a note for the councils that prior to the meeting, Councilor Hoffman did voluntarily agree to that. When I asked him, he said, "Oh, yeah, of course I will do that." Okay,
That's where the action is.
okay. Thank you again, Councilor Hoffman. 22E, the request for tax relief per RSA 79-E from the owners of 622, 634 Main Street, also known as the Pinnacle Building. The owners of 622, 634 Main Street, also known as the Pinnacle Building, have submitted a request for tax relief under RSA 79-E, and the owners are preparing to begin substantial renovations, the work on this building. The city adopted the provisions of RSA 79E in 2012, and the statute reads in part. Kurt, do I need to read the?
No,
Okay.
no, I can give you the 30,000 foot view of that if you'd like.
I was hoping you would.
Okay. So what wasn't included in your packet, but was given to you and was given to the city clerk for inclusion in the minutes, you have a copy of their application. And I also included, just as a reference, a copy of our fact sheet that we use. We don't do this very often. So it was a fact sheet on what we have to follow. If they meet all the qualifications for this building, which, looking at it, it appears that it does, they would be entitled to tax relief if whatever the building's assessed at now, and our assessing office went out last week, they'll be supplying me with a set of numbers prior to our next meeting, the public hearing, and the next meeting with you. Whatever increases they do, if you grant the relief, they would pay their taxes on what the building is worth today for the amount of time, which is up to 5 years. And so they wouldn't be paying on the new value of the building in that time frame. So their taxes would be, locked in, if you will, during that time frame. They're here. Obviously, they'll be here to speak at the public hearing, but I did ask them to be here tonight if you have any questions about what they're doing. Included in the packet, there is information about exactly what they're doing, some diagrams and a lot of work. I know we've had a lot of conversations with this. So that's where this stands. Would be needing it to go to a public hearing, would provide you with a little bit more information financially. Obviously, we don't know what taxes are gonna look like 5 years from now, so I can't say exactly what the numbers would look like, but we can give you the updated and refresh assessed values now and moving forward.
Council Bogart.
Thank you for your patience. The question I have is, if this reduces the property tax, what if,
That's what it would be.
and could we, when we figure that portion of it out, figure out how much, if it lowers the TIF value? Because then that could have an effect on our programs that we're using for that neighborhood and the monies available.
What would depend is I don't know what the end result of the value of the building's gonna be. So what it's assessed at today versus what it's assessed at the day they complete and they get their CO and assessing goes back out, I don't know that number. I mean, we can estimate, but we won't know that number.
It's not really lowering anything, it's gonna keep it at the same value it's at right now for the number of years we determine, and then it'll go up.
It's an incentive to get developers to want to put money in and maybe save them a little bit of money over the next couple of years so they can, because they turned it into the
I
building.
believe we did this in Lakeport too, didn't we?
Yes,
We did this at Lakeport,
We
we
have
did
two-
it over
we-
at the church.
2, yep,
Okay.
we've done 2.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion. I move to schedule a public hearing on March 24th, 2025, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action taken on this matter. Is there, Council Bogart makes the motion, Councilor Cheney seconds it. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. Thank you. We are on 21F. Request to authorize acceptance of an Office of Community-Oriented Police Services. Fiscal year 23, COPS Technology and Equipment Program, grant in the amount of $200,000 to fund technology integration system, referred to as Video Wall, for the Laconia Police Department. In April 2023, the Laconia Police Department applied for a grant offered through the U.S. Department of Justice under its invitation only. COPS Technology and Equipment Program. Recently, we have been notified that the application has been approved and the grant has been awarded. I'm going to read this entirety because I think it's important. The project will enable the LPD to design and install a dispatch video system connected to the LPD to our schools and city organizations and business. The dispatch video technology integration system will create strong partnerships with Laconia School District, Lakes Region Mental Health Center, the city, and a variety of local businesses. through the development of MOUs and a project implementation. This project will enable the LPD to work collaboratively with partners through the city to expedite situations to law enforcement under that. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I lost my place. This would positively impact the operation of Laconia Police Department by enhancing coordination efforts with our city schools and city organizations business to mitigate the loss of life and injury to children, youth, and adults, and property damage. The project will enable the LPD to increase coordination, response time, information sharing, and such accurate identification and of dangers, thereby mitigating loss of life, injuries, and property damages. The grant will include the fiscal year 23-24 anticipated grants was included. The public hearing was a grant and was held on June 26, 2023, as part of a public hearing of fiscal 23-24 budget. The entire cost of this program is covered by the COPS grant, and there is no local match requirement. The report was submitted by Captain Al Grayton of Laconia Police Department. The motion is, I move to approve Resolution 25-09, request to authorize acceptance of an Office of Community-Oriented Police Services, COPS Technology and Equipment Program grant in the amount of $200,000 to fund technology integration system for the Laconia Police Department. Do I have a motion? Counselor Cheney. Counselor Susie seconds it. Is there any discussion?
Could I just add to what you've read? Beyond all those things, we had a discussion about expanding the video coverage in the city. And this grant, this equipment, is designed to accept that additional equipment and additional video from around the city. So the more we add, the better able they'll be able to anticipate. But it also provides, I don't know if you remember, but citizens or businesses can allow the department to include their cameras. So, you know, we needed this in order to be able to do those things. It just needed a more robust system. This is the robust system to do that.
Yes, and I might add that the department should be thanked for, again, getting a sizable grant, especially where this is needed, especially in the downtown district.
Yep.
Councilor Hoffman?
Last time we discussed this, was there a mention of an ongoing cost for this on a yearly basis?
Yes, there
outside
was.
of the?
Yep.
Do we know what that cost
I think
is?
there was.
I think it was 150,000.
I believe that's correct.
Between 100 and 150.
So accepting a $200,000 grant puts us on the hook for $150,000 a year going forward?
Well, we're gonna be on the hook for some portion of that. The difference is, this will give us more access to equipment around the city. But we're gonna have to install some, some software that has an annual fee.
But I understand the advantage of the Big Brother system, but I guess I question an ongoing cost of that magnitude and whether the budget can support it going forward.
But that, if corrected, that was discussed, that was software and.
It's software, and I don't want to sound like we're good at this, but we are hoping to be able to get that number down in bundling some of the other software that they already use through the same company. No guarantees, so I understand your concern, but that's our hope, is to get that number down.
Now, is this a situation where if that gets cut out of the budget, all of this equipment is useless? Or is there some value to it outside of subscribing to this expensive software package?
I don't have your answer. I don't have the answer to that.
I wasn't bright enough to ask that
It's a
question.
good question.
It's an interesting question.
The chief
Very
made it
good
very
question.
important that he does have a big
'Cause
stick.
I didn't know there was a.
Remember, he was standing right there.
yearly. I didn't know there was 150,000 yearly.
Yeah, I thought I remember that from the last time we discussed this.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Kitty, did we vote on that?
No, we
No.
didn't.
No.
It's
just
just
have
a
a-
motion.
We got the motion in a second.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. All right. Under unfinished business.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm not sure what the appropriate place would be, but I'd like to suggest a motion to ask the manager to postpone the meeting tomorrow until we can get those other questions answered. And I don't know if this is the appropriate place to do that, but if it is, I'd like to make a motion that we instruct the manager to postpone the meeting until we've had a chance to straighten out the issues that I think I've identified.
Is there a second? Council Bogart? Is there any discussion? Is this possible, Kurt?
If you direct me to, that's what we're gonna do it is, I mean, there's a lot of work went into setting up tomorrow night's meeting. I thought, and I'll just say, I thought we had everything lined up, but, if that's what the body votes, then I'll make whatever I have to do happen.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah,
Council Phelps?
I think canceling at this late date and time, I'm not for it, but that's,
I,
Council-
If I may,
go ahead.
Council Bogart, then Council Hoffman.
in looking at the rules and the way they're set up, and looking at the time frame, by ensuring that the rules are correct and the committee is set up, it would validate the outcome of a committee versus if it's not validated, then the information coming from that committee meeting would be invalidated. Number two, there's not that, having a meeting tomorrow or a week from tomorrow or whatever we can have to get this clarification is not gonna change the outcome. All it's gonna do is clear up the legalities of this to make it so that the information that comes from this committee is viable, sustainable information and not tainted with any questionable actions.
can I ask one question?
Council Hoffman.
I would just like to be respectful of the time of the people that volunteered to be on this committee. You know, it's not always that easy to get citizens to volunteer their time to participate in local government. And I'm against canceling the meeting, and I think no matter what that committee decides, it's coming back to this council for a vote regardless, right? So
Yeah, look, can I,
I don't see the harm in going forward.
so is this meeting basically just for discussion?
Yeah, so tomorrow night's agenda is, it's a presentation about housing in the area. We had a couple people do some research on just generalized housing, costs. There's a review of the proposals, that were submitted. And I forget the last thing on the list. It was just basically general discussion about this. So, that's what the first meeting was.
The,
Council Susie?
the proposals, we still haven't seen those as a full council yet, have we?
No, it was, going to this committee as that was what was asked to do, was to go to this committee.
Not to the council.
Yeah, it was asked to go to the committee. They never said yes or no to the council, but it was asked to package for the committee.
We did have that discussion.
I know it, I don't like
Oh,
it.
okay. All right. So, is there, on the agenda, is there anything to take any action?
No,
So is
it's review,
information?
it's review and information.
Okay, all right. Is there any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of Councilor Cheney's motion to postpone the meeting? 3 votes? Okay. All those who would like the meeting to go forward? 3 to 3, it's deadlocked.
Motion fails.
Motion passes.
Motion fails.
All right. 22A. This is under unfinished business. The current fire prevention and emergency medical service ordinance is outdated and requires changes to update the ordinance to reflect current industry standards. At the August 12th, 2024 City Council meeting, the hearing was held on the proposed changes to the ordinance. After the public hearing, a motion was approved to table this item in future meetings pending view of other changes by the New Hampshire State Fire Marshal's Office. The reviews resulted in minor changes, which is highlighted on page 1 of the ordinances. There are no fiscal, there's no match required. Staff recommendations. Staff recommends the City Council approve the proposed motion to reflect current industry standards. Before we go forward with this motions, I would like to ask Fire Chief Jubert if he would just give us an overview of what we're, what is submitted to the council. Chief Jubert.
Good evening, Council. So in August, we reviewed this document. It's really just an update of the ordinance that we have in place now, making it more modernized, so it flows a little bit more effortlessly and reflects back on what the state is requiring. So we submitted this, we reviewed it, then it had to go back to the Fire Marshal's Office for review, and the only recommendation that they made for a change was what was highlighted in the first paragraph, and it pretty much just asks us in this ordinance to acknowledge and recognize whatever code is adopted by the state of New Hampshire that year. So we're not coming back every other year trying to adopt a new code. And I think that's pretty standard language in most ordinances at this time.
Chief, I can't help but notice there's a lot of new fees. In reference to, when you look at the old fee and the new fee, there's quite a bit of new fees.
So a lot of these fees that are under new fees right now, there was no fees in place because it wasn't identified by, the fee schedule comes out of the NFPA. And so a lot of these have been adopted since the last time this ordinance has been updated.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. Is there any questions for the chief before we go to motions? Anyone? Okay. Motion. I move to take this agenda item off the table. Counselor Phelps? I'm sorry, Counselor Cheney. Counselor Hoffman seconds it. Is there any discussion?
I resent being mistaken.
I don't do this all the time. I can be fired at any time.
Better you than us.
All right. Vote. It's off the table. Is there any, is no discussion for that? Okay. I move to approve ordinance 2024-149 amended.
We need to
We
vote.
need to vote on
Didn't vote on.
the table.
Okay. All those in favor of taking it off the agenda? 6. See what you started, Councilor Cheney? And it's getting late. Okay. There's no discussion on that. The second motion is, I move to approve ordinance 2024-149, amending chapter 149, article 1 of the fire prevention as prevented. Seconded by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Hoffman. Is there any discussion? None. Okay. All those in favor?
Thanks,
Six votes
Chief.
in favor.
Thank you.
Thanks. Twenty-two B is a resolution relative to authorizing purchase and replacement of electronic ballot counting devices. The state of New Hampshire, RSA, chapter 5640 requires the mayor and city council to authorize the use of electronic counting devices approved by the Ballot Law Commission and the number of those devices used for counting ballots in such city and town for any regular or special elections. The use of such devices as authorized shall be valid for all purposes. Kurt, are you gonna wanna discuss this, or do you want Katie to?
I volleyed it all over to her earlier today, and
Katie?
Yes. So the Secretary of State's office announced that our current voting machines must be replaced by June 30th of 2026. So a few years ago, they started showing us what the different options would be. They dwindled them down, and the machine that I feel is the best for the city of Laconia was approved January of 2025 by the Ballot Law Commission. And they're offering a grant to help us pay for half of it to replace all 7 machines. And the other half of the funding was approved back in December with ARPA funds. So the project is fully funded, and we just need you guys to vote on the approval of the machines.
Okay. All right. First motion is I move to waive a reading of Resolution 2025-06 in its entirety and read by title only. Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Hop. I'm getting better. Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. Second motion is I move the second reading of Resolution 2506 relative to authorizing the purchase and replacement of the city's electronic ballot counting devices. Is there a motion? Counselor Felch? Counselor Cheney seconds it. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. Third motion, I move to approve Resolution 2025-06 relative to authorizing purchase and replacement of the city electronic ballot counting devices as presented, and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to that matter. Do I have a motion? Counselor Hoffman, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any discussion?
Could I just ask a question? Did I understand you to say 7 machines?
Yes, so we have 6 wards, but we have 1 spare in case we need it.
Okay, is that enough?
Yep.
Okay. I'm all set, thank
Thank
you.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. Thank you, councilors. 22C. At the January 29th, 2025 meeting of the Downtown TIF Advisory Board, recommended several projects for the improvement of the downtown area to be financed by the downtown TIF. The fiscal impact, the cost estimated for the proposed project is $81,000, with funds to be taken for the downtown TIF balance. The current balance in the downtown TIF is $7,446,689.99. We have 3 motions. I move to waive a reading of Resolution 2507. It's an entirety and read by title only. Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. Second motion, I move second reading of Resolution 2025-07 relative to request of use of downtown TIF funds to finance the downtown improvement project as presented. Is there a motion? Counselor Susie? Counselor Cheney seconds. Is there any discussion? Counselor Bogart?
I'm not sure if it's this one or the next, but it doesn't matter. As I agree with using the TIF funds, but I have concerns with our current situation in Rotary Park with the usage that it's going under. Will the money, the flower boxes and stuff like that, will that be in harm's way as it currently sits in some of our areas of the city? And that's all I was wondering.
Counselor Bogart, I think that's a fair question. Counselor Susie, would you like, Counselor Felch? Counselor Felch, would you like to address that?
Yes, I was at the meeting. They've worked out a great plan for this program. It includes all the maintenance up for the year. The flower boxes are gonna be on the main street for the most part. Rotary Park, has some work to be done in it, but it's not the bulk of it, so to speak. Flower boxes are being made by the Hewitt Center. I've seen them as well. And if you don't fix it and just let it get worse, what are we saying? It's okay? So.
I agree with what's going on. I was
Yeah.
just,
No, I know.
it was a concern I had,
And it's always
especially
a
as I
concern.
came here tonight.
But I can remember back in the 70s when I was growing up, you had the same problem with kids doing stuff, and you still got to go on with business.
Counselor Susie?
There's no doubt in my mind that Warren, his team, there's no doubt in my mind that Warren and his team have had significant discussions with Chief Canfield, and they'll plan for all this and do it. And, I mean, I know that area pretty well. And I think that's what's gonna happen.
And they've
So,
coordinated with Parks and Rec as well. So.
I don't know if Parks and Rec is gonna be there at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I know
No,
the PD will be.
Counselor Hoffman?
Well, I think the way we're going, I mean, every inch of downtown's gonna be under 24-hour surveillance at some point in the near future, so
Yep.
I
Good
think,
Cameras, good man, Eric. Give it to the ZBA, let them take care of it.
Points well taken.
I hate engineers, I really do. They're so technical.
Katie, did we vote on the second?
No,
No.
we got a first and second.
Is there any other discussion on the second motion? Okay, all those in favor? All right, the third motion, I move to approve Resolution 2025-07 relative to the request use of downtown TIF funds to finance the downtown improvement projects as presented and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents relative to the matter. Is there a motion? Councilor Felch? Councilor Bogart, second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? 6 votes in the affirmative. All right, thank you very much. 22D. I had a request to table this motion. Do I have I'm making motion to table 22D. Is there a second? Second, Bogart. Council Bogart? Seeing as there's no discussion on table matter, all those in favor? Is that a yes, Councilor Chin?
Yes, I apologize.
6 votes in the
I
affirmative.
was wrestling.
I'm opposed.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a reason why this is being tabled.
I requested it to be tabled.
Oh, okay.
We need to adjust the motion. I don't think it was
Okay.
fit correctly.
I forgot the docks.
Okay. Is there any other matters to come before the council? Kurt, you are all set with everything?
Yep, I'm good.
Madam Clerk, we're adjourned at 8:31. Thank you, gentlemen. I have